Hey guys, welcome to my first movie review of 2025. Now, at the end of last year, I reviewed the infamous and somewhat divisive Mortal Kombat adaptation from the 90s, and I gave it a pretty positive review. A couple of comments disagreed with me, which is fair, but I think it must be said that there is a much more questionable adaptation of the Mortal Kombat games from the 90s, for better or for worse. Now, there is something I should warn you about when it comes to this film. Most of the cast from the original have been replaced. Robin Shou and Talisa Soto are the only ones returning for this film. Raiden is now played by James Wan, Sonya is now played by Sandra Hess, and Johnny Cage is now played by Chris Conrad. Such is the way of sequels, I suppose. Mortal Kombat Annihilation received a pretty bad reception, and according to an interview with the filmmakers by Flickering Myth, producer Lawrence Kasanoff stated that the film was released unfinished, which may have contributed to it critically bombing. I mean, the CGI effects have definitely downgraded since the first film came out, but would it be unfair to judge a book by its cover? Let's find out. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
So, we get an almost identical title card to the first film and then a cringy flashback segment, bar our actors that were replaced. This film starts off pretty much right from where the last one ended, and we are introduced to our Shang Tsung replacement here, along with the dodgy tone of the film.
And on the seventh day, mankind will rest in peace.
Not this.
This wizard guy, Shao Kahn, is played by Brian Thompson, an actor known for his formidable stature. I also recognise him from somewhere else, but I'm not sure where. Any ideas, people? The characters are just as pissed off as we are that they're in a sequel, and the best explanation that the new Raiden can come up with is the portal can open again. So, a non-answer basically. Thanks, writers. On that note, Kitana's supposedly dead mother, Sindel, has arrived to deliver us with one of the campiest pieces of dialogue ever spoken on film.
You're alive. Too bad you will die.
We then get our first highly choreographed and ridiculous fight between Shao Kahn and Raiden. As he's a sore loser, Shao Kahn snaps Johnny Cage's neck, and I'm not sure how I feel about such a significant character from the last film being killed off so early on. The CGI does look better in this scene, but this won't last long. The group runs from the red shirts into an old cavern? Catacomb? I don't know, guys. To make a long story short, Shao Kahn cheated by resurrecting Sindel, which somehow keeps the portal open, and the heroes must defeat Shao Kahn before humanity is destroyed, and the worlds merge in 6 days. Sounds easy enough. Raiden directs Liu Kang to find a shaman who can train him called Nightwolf, and he and Kitana use one of the public transport balls from DreamWorks robots to get there. Meanwhile, Shao Kahn reports back to his dad, an elder god, Shinnok, who tells him off for not killing Raiden, which I suppose is meant to be threatening or something, but I can't take any of these characters seriously. Anyways, Liu Kang and Kitana seem to have made some relationship progress between the two films, as they seem a lot closer, but before they can share a kiss, they're attacked by a group of baddies again. Although the fight choreo is still pretty ridiculous, we at least see Kitana actually use her fans here. Before they can be killed by this guy's missile though, Sub-Zero shows up to say that hang on a minute.
I killed you in a tournament.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It turns out that this is actually that Sub-Zero's brother, and he gives some exposition about how Kitana is the key or whatever. Very cheesy. Scorpion shows up and battles it out with Sub-Zero, which makes sense actually, those two usually don't like each other. The editing is very weird in this scene though, as the fighting is very clearly sped up in some parts and slowed down in others, seemingly at random. It doesn't really help in making the fight interesting, so I don't know. Scorpion kidnaps Kitana much like Shang Tsung kidnaps Sonya towards the end of the original Mortal Kombat film. Speaking of which, Raiden separates from Sonya and says he'll meet her at the Temple of the Elder Gods. Sonya goes to meet her friend Jax, played by Lynn Red Williams, just as some more of Shao Kahn's cannon fodder break in. Talk about convenient timing, and I'm pleased to say that they are reducing their use of the 1v1 method that I mentioned in my other review, although that doesn't save them from being terrible at hand-to-hand combat. While Cyrax, appears defeated, his self-destruct sequence begins, which leads to one of the worst uses of a green screen during an explosion sequence that I've seen in a while. I mean, look at this. It looks like they've both slipped on a giant banana peel. In stock villain lair number 237, Shao Kahn murders his general when he spares a couple of Earthrealm fighters, and he nominates Sindel as his new general. Who could have seen that coming? In the meantime, Liu Kang is attacked by a POV camera shot, which just turns out to be Nightwolf.
Pretty cool, huh? It's my animality.
This movie is so painfully 90s that I can actually feel it draining my life force. Anyways, Nightwolf tells Liu Kang off for Kitana getting kidnapped in his presence, and tells him that he must complete 3 tests, like in the last film. Nightwolf knocks Liu Kang out to force him into a dream state and help him unlock his animality. He throws a hatchet at him, and I assume the handle hit him, but what if it didn't? That move was super reckless. What if you killed your champion then and there? As part of his first test, Liu Kang struggles with visions brought on by a dated CGI overlay. This is apparently to test his self-esteem, courage, and focus, before Jade from Mortal Kombat 2 suddenly appears before Liu Kang. He rejects some advances from her and they fight, before Jade reveals that this was all part of the second test from Nightwolf. Again, how convenient, and anticlimactic. They then go to rescue Kitana, and this is never resolved by the way. Next, Sonya and Jax are wandering through the middle of nowhere while our heroine waxes poetic about Johnny's death, much to Jax's confusion as he has no idea who Johnny is. Suddenly, Sonya is jumped by a masked figure in pink.
Kitana, you wish.
I thought this line was pretty funny, and no, it's not the Pink Ranger either. This is actually Melina, and part of her backstory involves looking very similar to Kitana bar her teeth, for varying reasons depending on the game. The fight goes about how you'd expect, overly choreographed paired with laughable ragdoll physics. After Sonya takes care of her and Jax defeats this ridiculous CGI monster, the pair flee when they see a large army charging towards them, as you do. Raiden asks the Elder Gods why they allowed Shao Kahn to reopen the portal between Outworld and Earthrealm in the first place, and they give him some wishy-washy excuse via terribly vocoded dialogue.
We do not control the destiny of man.
Everyone possesses the ability to change their fate.
Let's be real, they were having a Ryuk moment and wanted to cause some drama because they were bored. I could at least let that slide. Raiden buys this though and says he's willing to sacrifice his immortality to save humanity. Liu Kang, Jade, Jax, and Sonya meet up with the Outworld troops hot on their trail, and just as they think hope is lost, Raiden appears before them.
Never give up hope.
You really thought you ate? Give me that fucking plate.
First of all, what was that flip effect? And second of all, that look is just not Raiden. Yeah, it's better than that shoddy wig, but come on, what happened to the 3 storms? Sindel uses some kind of sonic scream to destroy the surroundings, and they all decide to move to Outworld for some reason? Maybe so the setting is more edgy, I guess? Liu Kang goes through a secret passageway to rescue Kitana, and the others fight Sindel and her henchmen. This includes a fight almost identical to the one Liu Kang fought against Reptile in the first film, it's just shorter. At the same time, Liu Kang is having to fight his own battles, literally against several henchmen himself before freeing Kitana. How much longer do we have left at this point? Having knocked her out earlier, the group tries to bring Sindel to Kitana to break the spell, but it doesn't work, and worse yet, Jade reveals herself to be some kind of double agent. Sindel then turns into an orb and flies out of the room by spinning on the spot like it's disguise time, while the traitor sneaks away. Jade gets munched by one of those CGI things later, so whatever. She had way too dark makeup to not be evil in this kind of film, so the reveal wasn't that shocking. It seems like all of this was for nothing too, as in trying to complete this task, Raiden has officially rescinded his immortality. His previous incarnation has done that on screen before, so who's surprised there? Raiden reveals that his father is an Elder God, and the others act really shocked for some reason. I don't really understand how this is so surprising. He had to get his immortality from somewhere. What is understandable to be shocked about though, is that Shao Kahn is Raiden's brother.
What?
This wasn't even in the games and was just added for stupid 90s melodrama. You don't have to be family with or betrayed by someone for your goal to be important. Let's cut to the chase. Raiden gets whooped by Shao Kahn in the first 5 minutes of the final battle, leaving the others to take on suitable opponents. Naturally, Liu Kang challenges Shao Kahn, and unlocks his animality to defeat him. Shao Kahn does the same, and we get a showdown displaying some of the worst of 90s CGI. If you told me that this was a deleted scene from The Scorpion King, I'd believe you. When it looks like Liu Kang is winning, the Elder Gods end up showing up so the two can engage in mortal combat, and we finally hear that theme song. Liu Kang, predictably, does win, and Shinnok is, I don't know, sent to join Nuclear Man in the original cut of Superman 4? It's all well that ends well, with Kitana and Liu Kang officially becoming a couple on screen, and Raiden being resurrected as an Elder God to take his father's place. And I can safely say that there will be no direct sequel following this film. What did I think of Mortal Kombat Annihilation on the whole then? Something I keep seeing it get lambasted for are its notoriously bad visual effects. It's not like the ones in the original were good, but you could at least bear to look at them. I also feel that in some shots they were particularly lazy too. For example, in the scene where Jax fights Cyrax, and Cyrax fires his dissolving net, Jax holds his bionic arm plate up to block it. There's just a lingering shot on Jax for a few seconds, which really took me out of the scene. He could have just thrown the net down immediately. The plot and pacing aren't very gripping either. We get an overload of new characters thrown in, and having most of the characters from the first film recast anyway is jarring enough, one of which dies within the first 4 minutes of this film. The writers also just seem to be trying to rehash a lot of the elements and even scenes from the first film without trying to make the characters more complex. Again, it's not like they were particularly profound in the original film, but they were at least fun and seemed somewhat human. The fact that this is the second film means you have more opportunity to add more layers. On top of this, the acting and dialogue just isn't believable. If you thought the first Mortal Kombat was camp, I did not believe a single line out of any of the characters' mouths for the entire runtime of Annihilation. I also feel like the characters' special moves could have been utilised in the fight choreography more as well, especially as that was emphasised so much in the original. I think that there aren't really many excuses for such a downgrade, as Annihilation had $10 million more worth of budget compared to Mortal Kombat, according to the numbers. The costumes look so cheap, and it's such a shame that the film's post-production was allegedly cut short. Despite all of the flaws that I just talked about, I can't dislike this film, the sole reason being that it's genuinely entertaining. Everything is so bombastic and over the top, yet so shallow and superficial, that combined it just makes for a hilarious watch if you don't know what you're getting into. For that reason, and for that reason alone, I seriously recommend this film. If you're looking for a more grounded film that's more in line with the games, I wouldn't recommend watching the 90s MK movies at all. But if you're a fan of silly B-movies that don't take themselves too seriously, I can get behind watching this one. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause Polos is life, 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 Polos is life. Sleep all night and then Polos is life.